Well, we'd made an approach via the Welsh Rugby Union to celebrate Her Majesty's patronage to the stadium and let the Welsh Rugby Union for the 60th year. And I suppose not long after the royal wedding, the palace wrote to me and said that Her Majesty prepared to sort of sit for a session, and we didn't have a great deal of time to prepare for it, so it was within about probably a month, I suppose, from the point of receiving the letter. So yeah, it was a rather sort of mixture of great relief and sort of excitement, I suppose, yeah, because it's a portrait that I've always wanted to do. Yeah, it was a very poignant moment for me, and I immediately started thinking about how I would approach it and what ways I would sort of, what angle I would go from. But it's been things I've been thinking about actually for quite some time, about the sort of portrait I'd paint if I was to do it. I think it's the ultimate subject really for any artist. I have a lot of admiration for her, I suppose, and also that she represents so many things, different people. And I like that complexity in terms of what it means to people as a portrait. When I started the painting, I'd commenced with a couple of drawings from the sitting, and then from there on I then had to sort of rely primarily on photographs that were taken over the course of the sort of period of time I was with her. But I suppose I began by sort of using this. I'd very quickly decided on the image I wanted to work from, and it was one which I felt was quite iconic in terms of her shape and her demeanour and her mannerisms. But then I also saw into some sort of insightful moments, which I don't suppose one's familiar with in public. So it was a combination really from the outset of capturing both public and private knowledge of her. You know, I was expecting to be quite a testing sort of situation in terms of being an artist and how you approach it, and I realised I had to sort of really just treat her as somebody which I could draw on my knowledge of who she was and bring that into the sitting. So I felt a bit comforted by that actually, that I felt as though I'd almost known her for quite some time in any case. So I wouldn't say I was particularly nervous. I suppose I was more aware that I had this small window of time I had to really make use of and get as much out of the sitting as I could. So in a way it was the ultimate test in the sense that if I was going to buckle at any portrait, it would be this one, and this would be the one which would really challenge me and challenge my, my integrity, I suppose, as an artist.
A portrait of Her Majesty the Queen, commissioned by the Welsh Rugby Union and painted by artist Dan Llywelyn Hall, has been unveiled at the Millennium Stadium in celebration of the 60th anniversary of the coronation.
The Welsh Rugby Union occupies a unique position within the cultural life of Wales, and to have an artist of the calibre of Dan Llywelyn Hall to paint this portrait of our patron, Her Majesty the Queen, is something very special indeed, and is now following a line of activity that we've developed with the arts over recent years with Owen Shears, with our photographers from Newport. But this is something special, and to have Dan be given the privilege of a sitting with Her Majesty in Windsor Castle in the most intimate and private of situations is something quite extraordinary, and I think you'd agree that Dan has captured an image here which everyone should be proud of, and I think it will hang in a position of great honour here in the Millennium Stadium.
Well, I first of all received a note to say that the portrait could go ahead and that I could sit with Her Majesty for this one occasion, end of November. So for me, it was an obvious connection to Wales, and the most sort of succinct in a way that the Welsh Rugby Union were the organisation which could honour this sort of 60th year anniversary of a coronation, and indeed the patronage of the Welsh Rugby Union. So for me, it was a very timely occasion to do that, and having just had this very successful sort of Diamond Jubilee year with great sort of public affection was sort of coming out to people. For me, it was the best time, I think, in some way, because her personality and her what she was consolidated really amongst the public.
The relationship that the Welsh Rugby Union has with the royal family dates back, decades upon decades. And not only have we Her Majesty the Queen as our patron, we have, of course, the Duke of Cambridge, Prince William, as our vice patron. And he has been very active with the Welsh Rugby Union. He is now the patron of the Welsh Rugby Charitable Trust for our disabled players. He was a former active rugby player himself. He's been here on many occasions to the stadium. He's got a great relationship with the players here in Wales. And I think this is a very special relationship for Wales, because I think it shows the unique position that Wales occupies within the United Kingdom, and we punch above our weight on every front.
As Roger rightly says, I think it's very important that as the great institutions of Wales mark these cultural events, and obviously there's nothing more important to a Welshman than the Welsh rugby pitch. So nationally, it's in the best place for me. It's better than any museum I could imagine.
And in a final bit of royal news, what has the Welsh Rugby Union unveiled this week?
Oh, a portrait of the Queen.
It is indeed.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't look anything like her.
There we are. It's a new portrait of the Queen, painted by the Welsh-born artist Dan Llywelyn Hall and commissioned by the Welsh Rugby Union, and fittingly makes her look like a scrum half.
It's a picture of David Walliams, isn't it?
Well, the science was rocked this week.
Now, a new portrait of the Queen has been unveiled, and it's causing quite a stir. The painting was commissioned by the Welsh Rugby Union to mark the 60th anniversary of the coronation, and is on display at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff. Reaction, though, has been mixed, with some of its fiercest critics saying it looks like a spitting image puppet. Well, joining me now is the artist who painted that picture, Dan Llywelyn Hall, and the art critic, David Lee. Thank you both for joining me this evening. Dan, you're the artist. You must be pretty pleased with it, aren't you?
I'm thrilled with it. I wouldn't change a thing.
David, you don't share that opinion?
No, I think even among the appalling royal portraits of recent years, this is a bad one, I'm afraid. Dan is a very good, competent landscape painter, but I think he's made a complete mess of this. The likeness is all over the place. She looks like a drag queen impersonator. And the picture itself is not convincing. When you paint a portrait, you've got to make it convincing. You've got to make people think, yes, this is a very good picture, what's it about? And of course, with this one, all you think is, what's gone wrong here?
Well, Dan, I'm afraid David isn't the only one who has this opinion. People have been saying that it looks like a spitting image puppet, and we've had a few tweets in. We've had a message from Ruth Grover, who says it's dreadful, hope they didn't pay for it. It's dark, ugly, and she doesn't shine out at all, just awful. Hope it's kept hidden. What's it like to hear things like that?
Well, I'm with Oscar Wilde on this. I would say that it's the role of the artist to educate the critic and the role of the critic to educate the public. So for me, it is a matter really of just rolling with the punches. I find it all sort of... I'm very indifferent to it, I can tell you that.
Do you agree, Dan, that it doesn't actually look like that?
I don't think it's not the role now. Painting has to be pressed a little further, I think, particularly in portraiture. You know, it occupies this cultural backwater. It's very stuffy, it's very dull, and we have this tremendous reverence for making images look like photographs, which I think painting's got to deepen the game, and it has to go a little further than that. And I subscribe to a sort of way of painting where
I think there's a tradition of portrait painting, Dan, which requires that the first thing a portrait should conform to is the likeness. And you were given a sitting by the Queen. What on earth were you doing while you were sat there? You obviously weren't drawing.
The sitting and the likeness really is something as the beginning. It's like when a novelist starts a book. You begin with the experience and you take it into other dimensions. And for me, it's the same with painting. But this is the beginning of the story.
What was it like to sit in front of the Queen?
Well, it was very humbling, I suppose, to begin with. I've always been a great fan of her, and I suppose after that it just enhanced that experience. And she's a great conversationalist and very enjoyable company.
What was it about her that you wanted to capture?
Well, she's a complex person. I think she's doing a very difficult job, and I think she's an isolated person. And I think that for me, I was trying to, there were certain things I had in mind before I did the sitting, but afterwards it becomes more clear to you, I think, when you've met the individual and you see the private side to them, which I was very privilege to see, and that's what I wanted to get through into the
And do you know what the Queen thinks of it? Has she made any comments?
I'm afraid I don't know. She's very good like that. She doesn't respond to any portraits, which I'm, it's,
OK, well,
pleased
one
to
thing
see
we
it.
should mention that you're the youngest artist ever to have painted the Queen at age
Welshman,
32.
I believe. I don't think I'm the youngest artist. I think that I'm amongst the top three.
Well, David, we know it's not the first official portrait of the Queen. In fact, it's the 133rd, I do believe. And a lot of them have caused a stir, it's fair to say. And we've got a few to look at. Justin Mortimer's. His was rather unusual and very yellow. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think that's what Dan is aiming at. That is obviously a caricature representation of the Queen. It was commissioned by the Royal Society of Arts many years ago, and it's an unusual perspective on a very familiar sitter. And Dan should, if he wanted to do something, he should have gone a bit further. At the moment, it looks as though it's halfway between being a kind of a likeness and being a caricature.
Dan, what do you say to that?
Well, I mean, it's a, it's all in the melting pot, isn't it? I mean, you put all these ideas forward, and it comes out as it comes out. And I was absolutely convinced with it. I'm convinced I achieved everything I wanted to and set out with the portrait. I've had tremendous reception, and anyway, I'm totally indifferent to reception of people. I really couldn't care. And I paint. When you go out to paint, it's a lonely existence, and you've got to be prepared to be the last person on earth to roam around and believe in yourself.
And what are you going to paint next then?
Possibly more portraits. Might have a rest for a short while, and maybe go back to doing some more. But I'm involved with something at the Haylistra Festival, some residents have there. So I'll be drawing people, I suppose, involved in an environment with out and about. But yeah,
I'd stick to the landscapes if I were you, Dan.
Oh. Well,
David.
art is very subjective. I'm sure you have lots of people out there who thoroughly admire your work, so very well done
glad
to
to
you.
say I have.
Well, Dan Llywelyn Hall and David Lee, many thanks for joining us this evening.